Welcome to episode 254 of The Center Ring, and this is going to be the best episode ever because we have CDL London, back-to-back weeks for CDL, so that's always a plus. Sad news that the International 11 for next year, not this year, but next year, has already been postponed. How will that affect Dota? We'll explain and give our thoughts. Also, the winds of change has hit esports, and we will discuss how I think we all need to prep for a different future as far as what we know today. But before that, let me tell you about Alt Esports brings you the Center Ring. They are the top of the line apparel as far as esports goes, as far as just streetwear, lifestyle, whatever the hell. Look, you young whippersnappers can put your label on everything, okay? Us boomers, we just want to look good. And that's all I care about. And that's why we go to altesports.com to do so. They just released a pair of new shoes, new kicks, as you might say, with DC. They have their fresh E-United summer tee. Again, we talked about it last episode, but you can't go wrong with Coral. You just can't. They still have some limited edition Fear the Deep tee for all you Florida Mutineer bandwagoners. It's not too late to hop on that bandwagon. You can pick yourself up there. And other CDL merch right before Champs. Champs is right around the corner, so you want to look good. Alt Esports is the official apparel designer for the CDL and the Overwatch League while we're at it. So go there, get your merch, look good for the finals, and the rest will take care of itself. So that is altesports.com.
Hey, this is James Clayster Eubanks, and you're listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Yes, this is episode 254, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date is 7/15/2020. The time, 8:40 p.m. Central Time. Have a packed episode to get to. Lot happened in just today, really. So thank you, esports, because it was kind of slow. But as the esports God giveth, they also taketh. But they always know, hey, TCR's doing a show. Let's have some breaking news in for them. Sometimes it happens right after the show. Sometimes it happens before we record. So we appreciate it. So there's that. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring, if you're not doing so already. Our website, tcr.gg. You can go there. Quick plug, if you know anything about web design, hit me up. I would love to redesign our website. I have a few ideas. You go to tcr.gg, you have witnessed my max knowledge of web design. It ain't pretty, but it gets the job done. That is hours of me trying to figure out something that doesn't break everything. So if you know or know someone who can help or know something, you hit us up at The Center Ring. Slide into those DMs. They're always open. And join our Discord as well. Be a part of that conversation. We always have guys looking to play some Valorant with, League of Legends. If you're EU, there's a handful of you on there. Just let each other know. I know you guys always want to play with us, but that's difficult. Because that would mean we're getting up at 4 a.m. And I love you. But the only way I'm waking up at 4 a.m. is to change a diaper. And it ain't yours. It ain't yours. So, there's that. My name is Tim. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. But alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
What's up, dude?
It's going. It's Wednesday. I'm excited. I was thinking about it. Because we really don't get to talk a whole lot between shows now. I've noticed your time of getting on has greatly diminished.
It's at an all-time low. It's definitely at an all-time low. I have actually picked up Diablo 3 again.
I told you that was gonna happen.
A new season came out, and I was like, man, that's easy for like 10 minutes. Do a quick rift run,
Yeah,
whatever. Just if I can farm some gear and kill stuff quickly.
I'll make one
Um,
with you then. I didn't know you got on Diablo. I actually started Path of Exiles recently.
kind of a like similar game feel almost. A
Yeah,
little bit
but
in the
except for
sense of,
Path,
like,
so Path of Exile, blah 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 blah. Path of Exile is really good at making me want to play Diablo.
yeah, and that's more MMO-ish also, right?
I mean, in the sense of it's complicated as shit. Yes.
The simplicity of Diablo is what makes it beautiful.
Yes, like PoE.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
it can be complicated, but it's at its core
but it's one of
very.
those like PoE for me. It's a free to play game, and it has elements that scream free to play, which bothers me. Like I'm
Yeah.
bougie. I want to feel like my game is polished and
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
like when your coolest cosmetics is hidden behind paywall. I'm like, that's annoying. Like I'll never look as cool as some dude who just spent $20 on armor.
I've never enjoyed a cash shop in any game.
No.
I would always much rather have the ability to earn it, like in WoW, like mount farming and all that.
Yeah.
Such a big
And they
part
still
of
have
my
cash.
gameplay.
They still have mount shops in WoW, but it's like very minimum. Like,
Well, yeah, it's like,
very.
and then but those are not popular ones because
No.
they're in the shop.
Yeah,
you know?
like people will judge you. They're like, I know you
Yeah.
bought that. Like,
Yeah.
that's not. I mean, it's cool, but not that cool. So PoE blurs that line of people like it because it's complicated. But my point is like, look, just because you're overly complicated doesn't mean you're
You're
good.
doing it right.
Yeah, for me,
yeah.
it's whatever. So I'll play Diablo with you.
Love it.
So there you go. If you also play Diablo, let us know. If you also, I think everyone at this point in life has played Diablo 3.
Everyone owns it for sure. It's been out for 5 years.
It's
It'd be
been
nice if
out
the
and
new
on
one
sale
would
for like
release.
$5 enough to where you probably picked it up one Christmas sale. So hit us up. Look, I have played Diablo 3. I have more hours in that game than probably any other game, believe it or not. So it doesn't take me a lot to get into it.
Yeah, it's quick, fun. So back to your original statement. Yeah, my time has been limited, so I switched over to things such as Diablo to occupy some of that free time. Man, today was a struggle. Today was a
You're
struggle. Like,
reaching the
but-
1 month mark. So things
yeah,
change.
tomorrow's the 1 month birthday. He gave us like at least an hour straight of just unhappiness there. And he's like normally such a happy baby, so like when it does happen, it's rare, and that's why it bothers us even more because it's
Yeah.
not normal. And it's like, oh man, it was a little tough just now.
Well, like you'll learn. Like every month, a new side comes out, right? So like he comes, like maybe a little bit more needy here or there, and it's
The poop is starting to smell.
yeah.
That's been the roughest
He
part.
doesn't have,
Now
like,
it's starting to
it's-
get like a little poopy smelly when before it wasn't at all.
Yeah,
And
you're like,
oh
What's,
man.
this isn't hard, whatever.
It's like
It's different. It's different. But like my kid now is 10 months.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'd say around 8 months they start being a baby. Like when you think of like kind of crawling around, being goofy, things like that. Like he's definitely has personality, and it's a weird feeling. Like I never thought I'd be that dad that like gets excited over little things. But like he's now starting to play with a toy car, like it's a toy car. Eventually
I
he'll
get feeling to see that.
like
Yeah.
eventually he will try to eat the car, but not immediately. It's like 10 seconds of playing with it, and then he'll try to eat it.
So, have you convinced Morgan to do the F1 setup racing sim in your room yet?
Not yet. That will be
Like,
around
maybe
a year.
he's got interest in it.
Because
Let's just get him
like,
early.
hey, let's get him. It's something we can
Let's
do
get him
together.
early.
It'll be something we can do together, babe. Yeah. That's the next goal in life, is convincing to get things that I want, but convincing the wife it's something that I can do with the child. But it's
Did-
great. It's great.
Have you noticed that like all of a sudden a bunch of esports people have come out to be like huge racing fans? Like it's like discussion topic now all over Twitter. Do you see this at all?
Yeah,
Have you
so I
noticed
think
it?
for multiple reasons. I think that one dude streams on Twitch. So like
Yeah.
he's now become buddies with him. I think it also helps that F1 is back right? So it was gone for a while. So maybe they always talked
Yeah.
about it, but it's just like an influx because we haven't had any
We don't have any
sports.
other sports going on
Like
right now.
no knock on soccer,
Yeah.
but you're an okay placeholder while real sports are away.
For NA.
Yeah.
EU, all they want is soccer.
Yeah.
You know, soccer's
I mean,
back.
look,
They're happy.
I produced a soccer radio show for like 5 years. I get it. But not up in here. Not in the
About to
land
have
of the
some
free.
NBA soon.
Yeah,
It's
we
not
got
too
NBA,
far
we got
away.
hockey rolling back in, so it's getting back there.
Coming.
It's getting back there. So I'm excited. For now, who knows? Here in the States, it's like we're getting like the second, third, fourth wave of COVID, and you still got people saying it's fake. I don't know. Look, if you cancel football, I will murder you. Like with people wearing a mask, I don't care if you don't wear a mask. I really don't. Like you can get sick, whatever. But if you prevent football from coming back in the fall, I won't know what to do with myself in the fall.
Yeah, well, wear a mask. If people could just wear a damn mask,
Like,
then
listen, we want to complain about online events and how they suck. Wear a mask. That's all I got to say.
yeah.
It's literally the most easiest thing you could do in life.
Even if you don't believe in it,
Yeah.
wearing it will bring us back to normalcy quicker than it is today. So, even if you don't believe in it.
Yeah, that's it. Just remember that, right? Even if you don't believe in it, the faster you wear a mask, the faster Big isn't ranked number 1 in the world for Counter-Strike, because we all know that that's just not right. In a world where Big is number 1 in CS, is only the world of COVID. That only happens this year.
Yeah, that's a whole discussion topic for me. So I have so many thoughts there on the ranking system right now, just seeing where we're currently at in the ranks. But yeah, throw a mask on. Let's get back to normalcy. Let's get Astralis back on top, or somebody around
Let's get
them
this
that we expect.
NAEU topic going again. Like,
Yeah, shoot.
I will never complain about talking about NA versus EU Counter-Strike ever again. I look back and I hate myself for thinking I wanted to blow my brains out when people asked me about NA versus EU, because now that's all I want. That's all I want is for NA to play EU again so I can have the discussion.
I want Reddit to go back to Reddit. You know?
Yeah.
I need those discussion topics to pop up occasionally for me. Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I've lost so much interest in certain parts of esports because it's not leading to a LAN event.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like I've lost a lot of that like drive to I watched so much esports. I kind of realized how much I watched now that COVID's here because I have a lot more free time on my second monitor over here, you know? But it's yeah, when it's not leading to LAN, it feels like it's just kind of taken away some of that thrill for me.
I think though we've also you know what? Why don't we do this? We were going to talk about CDL first. Do you want to talk Winds of Change first?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, because I actually have an impromptu Winds of Change.
Okay.
So one of the censuses, right, with the Winds of Change segment, we want to talk about things that are approaching in the esports world that might change it for the long haul. I think obviously COVID and everything around the world that's happened clearly has changed the landscape of things. We have seen more to what I would call pop-up shop tournaments than I ever would have imagined. It's like every week someone is throwing a rinky-dink $1,000 Warzone tournament with some celebrity. Like every athlete now, and it's in their free time, has become a part-time Twitch streamer. Like it has gotten, in my opinion, a little out of control. Now I know maybe this might be me gatekeeping, so I just want to make it aware that I realize the words that are coming out of my mouth, but it's a bit watered down at this point for me. A bit, like I don't know what is a meaningful event for some games and what isn't anymore, because it's like we have some weird Warzone Call of Duty tournament or a Valorant pop-up tournament where some teams are invited, some are like random ass guys that I've never heard of. It's just, to me, I think that's something, though, when things go back to normal, I think we'll see that quickly drop off.
So I'm going to separate your comments into two. because there's two different viewpoints I have within like the same statement that you
Okay.
made. And the first one was like talking about the watered down aspect of all the new people coming into gaming, right? Because of COVID. So like I think that from my perspective, I believe that to be a good thing because it's drawn a lot more attention outside of our traditional gamers, quote unquote, that
The
that
demo.
we have streaming right now. It brings in a whole new audience, right? Like seeing Meyer, Leonard Myers. What is Meyer? That who it is? Oh my gosh, I can't even. I'm drawing a blank on the guy that plays for the Heat. Anyway, there's a lot of players have.
Zeke. I mean, everyone.
Yeah, there's so many. Josh
Everyone's.
Hart, all these guys are all like streaming a lot more now. NBA players in particular have been showing it off. They've even taken it to the bubble that they're in right now in the hotel rooms. They have them all set up like their streaming set up in the hotel room. So you can tell they're enjoying doing it. They're not just doing it for a way to only gain an audience, right? Like they
Yeah.
already have an audience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're bringing in new people. So
Well, you
I
gotta
like that
remember
aspect of
too,
it.
like a lot of these guys are younger than us, right? Like
Yeah.
these guys are 23, 24 years
Dude,
old. They grew up with
90%
gaming.
of them are younger than us. Like not even some of them. It's majority of these guys are athletes that are coming in and all that. They are younger than us and they grew up gamers for the most part. So it's cool. Like I'm okay with that. Will they all stay for the long haul? Probably not. When life goes back to normal, like a lot of these guys are going to be incredibly busy and you probably won't see them nearly as often. But at least they've brought in a new audience. But the second part of your statement is I 100% agree with you. Um, the way that tournaments are being pushed out right now, and now I get it. Like if it's a charity event, that's awesome. Like I'm never going to tell somebody not to do a charity event. Of course, like do them. But what it's doing with all the events that are coming out, aside from charity events, just these random, we're calling them names of days. That's how generic they're being, right? Like the Saturday Showdown, and
Yeah.
it's like every Saturday there's a same tournament going off over and over. Um, I don't enjoy it, like I don't care to watch them, I should say. Like maybe I'll know who won just by scrolling through Twitter or something, but I have no interest in really watching a lot of that. I think that's a COVID thing though. Like a lot of these guys will be too busy in the sense when seasons start back up, land events, there's travel going on, so you're not going to have as many big names in there.
Right.
Once the big names go, those events kind of die off. Right now, everybody is able to do it. Even if you're playing in something that night and it's a daytime event, you can honestly just hop on for 2 hours, 3 hours, and do it.
The
So
irony
yeah,
is when this all started, the mindset was, oh, the players get to have a little break because you're not traveling as much and it's going to slow down a little bit. And it's almost the exact opposite, where now that all these guys, when I say guys, the organizers, right, know that the players aren't doing anything. It's like, hey, let's just throw in a Sunday bash and then, oh,
yeah.
look it, now we can do this. And
Part of that is because of what's entered the ecosystem, though, right? You had Valorant come into
yeah,
play right at the time of COVID, and so now we're seeing every single organization host an event, right? Like every single org, EU, NA, doesn't matter, are all hosting their own Valorant tournament. Then you have Nerd Street and all these guys getting into play. ESL, is ESL getting into play yet? I don't know if they did.
no, they haven't
Anyway,
done
there's
anything
enough.
yet.
There's enough out there that are in play to like have an event going on the whole time. And then on the flip side, you had Call of Duty Warzone come into play, and that's become like the go-to. I mean, in my mind, the go-to BR even over Fortnite.
Yeah.
I don't see like Fortnite pop-up events happening nearly as often. It's kind of been all Warzone. So part of that is obviously COVID, and the other aspect is two of like some of the biggest games we've had in the last 5+ years hit the market at the same time.
Yeah. And speaking of Valorant, like now that we're seeing bigger orgs get into it, like for a little bit there, we saw smaller orgs and players getting swept up, but now we're seeing where complete rosters now are being completed. We're finally seeing some EU teams getting involved. NIP ended up finishing off their roster, and what's one
Like
G2 started signing some guys.
G2's got 4 players. Forza is in, Godsent is in.
Godsent, that was the other one.
Um, you know, Liquid is in as a European team. so they're not an NA org
That's
for
weird.
Valorant. That is weird for sure. But yeah, like we're seeing all the big boys enter in, and we talked about this, maybe 10 plus episodes ago now, where we were kind of curious, like, okay, we're seeing some of the smaller names enter the scene. When is it a good time for the big boys to do so? And I think TSM kind of made the jump a little bit earlier than anybody else for the most part that really comes to mind. Um, Sentinels and I guess
T1.
T1.
But
But
even
Sentinels is not as big
I
as
was gonna
like
say
TSM.
Sentinels signed big players, but
Yeah,
they weren't a big. I mean, no knock on Sentinels, right? No disrespect.
they're big in Valorant though now. Like in
Oh
Valorant, they're
yeah,
a tier one team, right? So
Valorant and Fortnite, which is kind of the
they
only thing.
created a team that put them in that
Yeah,
conversation. Now, obviously, Envy, Renegades, Immortals, Gen G, FaZe, Dignitas, CLG, Cloud9, 100 Thieves. Those are all the NA teams that are already established pretty much up till this point. Um, so I think this is like now going to make this a lot of fun, right? Like I wasn't enjoying a lot of the orgs doing these events when it was just Sentinels and T1, right? Like that's who you saw every weekend, and the rest
not
was
even
like,
T1, like 3 guys from the roster,
yeah,
right?
3 guys from the roster, and then
And then you
a
had
team with
Hiko
Hiko.
and company wherever he
Yeah,
was at.
yeah. So now I think the like ignition series and things that are starting up, those become interesting events because now we can learn a little bit about the teams, understand some storylines, see who the players are, like who are the good, like who stands out, right? We know who the good Counter-Strike players in the group are. A couple of the big names from like PUBG that have like switched over, or Overwatch that have switched over, and now we're gonna see who's good at Valorant, right? Like who's the not maybe the best player, one of the best teams, whoever it may be. Like we'll at least start to get a taste of that, and until obviously LAN is available, we'll
Yeah.
see it region based. Um, but it's fantastic. Like all of these guys are in.
Well, I think too something interesting with Valorant now, right? Because we are starting to see fresh to us, right? I will say this: maybe to some people, you know them, but like Renegades, I haven't heard of anyone on that roster before. They signed their guys. They have their 5 guys, but do any of those guys look familiar to you?
So I think isn't Randy Savage? I thought he was a Counter Strike player, but I could be wrong. I'm gonna go look it up.
Looks like he big frames, or is that Valorant big frames? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, anyways, you're
My
right though.
point
There's a
is
ton
though
of names
is that
on these lists
yes,
outside of Renegades
teams
that
are
I look at.
now dipping into the unknown territory of okay, we can't just rely on signing no names anymore, right? We got to go and get new fresh faces in here and see what can happen. For me, that's enjoyable. Like we saw Envy sign some players, and they're interesting because again, some well known, some not. But like FNS, right? How many times have we talked about FNS on the show? Well, we've even interviewed him once before, and to me, I know his resume isn't that telling, right? Like the guy has been on his fair share of teams with Counter-Strike. Some people have said it's because he's difficult to work with. Um, Look, just from my conversations with him, I think he is a sharp IGL. Like I think he's one of those guys to where if you can get on the same level as him, good things can happen. So I'm excited to see where that takes Envy. So
I think FNS as an early addition to a Valorant team is an amazing idea because like you said, he brings in the IGL experience, but that also like there's a lot of extra practice the IGL is doing behind the scenes to learn concepts and the way things work within a map. And so to bring in an experienced person that already has the mentality of like this is how you grind, this is how you do that, is going to do nothing but do wonders for them. I think early on, like it gives them, in my mind, a competitive advantage over a team that has like 5 fraggers.
mhm.
Somebody that's comfortable calling. Caboose is another name on that team that really well known within the Counter-Strike community, longtime tier 2 player. We've seen him several times at DreamHack Dallas. Like he competes, or at the time Austin. He, I think his team won it back-to-back years over there. So they're bringing in a core of like people that we know are like really good at Counter Strike, right? Calypso, same thing. Like he was playing for Bad News Bears, so playing at a fairly high level of Counter Strike prior to them disbanding. But there's so many. Like, I mean, I'm honestly, it's funny because I look at like Gen G, and I'm like, man, I don't know those guys. I look at Echo 8. I don't know who Echo 8 is. We can even go like Cloud9, obviously, we know. It's just kind of interesting to see a lot of names on here, you're right, that you just don't recognize. And I'm almost curious how they scouted some of this talent if they
I
weren't
mean, just
playing.
all these little tournaments, right?
Yeah, like
that's why a lot of these guys host these tournaments, right? We're not watching every single match, but I can guarantee you the guys with the checkbooks are. So there is importance. I'm not saying there's no importance to the tournaments and don't do them. I'm just saying
we're just not interested.
I'm not interested in them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. One other thing, and we can move on to the next winds of change, is I'm a little excited for everyone here because from the Counter-Strike crowd, Asia has never been a threat. The market of Asian players have never once been taken serious in Counter-Strike. We see Tyloo show up at a major, and we pat them on the head and ruffle their hair and say, hey, good to see you, Tyloo. Well, we'll see you next time, right? Thanks for showing up. Here's your sticker money, and good to see you made it, right? But that's not always the case. Look at like Overwatch, right? The Asian side, the Korean players dominate that scene. So I'm kind of curious to see, will we see, because this game is a little bit of a mix of both, right? I'm kind of curious to see where that Asian market picks up with a new game. Counter-Strike, you're starting, we're on third base. They're starting in the batter's box, pretty much.
It's
Here, everyone's starting at the same line.
You're seeing Japan. Like Japan is already there's two teams that have popped up on people's radars, and you talk about a scene that's been non-existent in most esports, like relevant esports, as long as I can remember, which is always so surprising to me when you say it, right? Like
Japan,
it just blows my mind.
That's the only thing that comes to mind is FGC in Japan.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like, and that's like Smash primarily.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. Like, I'm just excited. We're not going to be able to see a lot about the Asian scene now because unfortunately they're not going to be playing EU or NA teams, and that's who people will base how good you are based on playing that competition, right? You can't say they're leading the pack early on because all the big names are in NA and EU for most people. But yes, it's gonna be awesome. Like again, seeing all the big names jump in, I'm a little surprised that this many have a team so soon. Like I didn't think that would be the case, and I was definitely wrong there.
Yep. My next one here for winds of change, which isn't much of a change, but it's been reported again by Slasher that and we did talk about him last episode, so I figured why not bring it up again. But the Army is focusing on recruiting gamers. Anuj, did you know that? Did you think that the armies would ever recruit gamers?
Tim, who is flying the drones? Who's on the sticks, as they say, right?
Could you imagine?
Who would you trust to like bomb a target more than a gamer?
Like if I showed up and my commanding officer handed me a controller to fly a drone, I'd be like, get that piece of shit out of here. Give me my mouse and keyboard. I'd whip out my SteelSeries backpack and set up my LAN, get my little microphone set up. And he's like, what do you do? I'm going to stream on Twitch, sir. Okay? Like, yeah, you know what? I just brought this up because for whatever reason, people seemed shocked by it. First off, the Army and any military service is going to recruit wherever the kidsters are at. So I really don't know what else to say other than duh. Like, of course they're going to try to recruit gamers. That's where the world is going as far as technology-wise. So why not? I don't think it's like them trying to exploit any market, right? And I know like some people are like, well, they're not, all my friends would never go do the Army and leave gaming. They're not looking for your buddy who's 18 years old sitting at home, you know, eating his Cheetos and playing games. They're not looking for you. Okay, they're looking for that hyped up young kid that's like, I could do this for real. Let's go. So they're out there. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's funny you use the word exploit. I think what they're doing is they're getting smarter about how they're recruiting people.
Yeah.
One of their marketing gimmicks that came up, I say gimmicks, one of their marketing tools, which ended up being a gimmick, was they had a tweet out there for a giveaway, Tim, with like a scuff controller and an Xbox Elite controller, the console, a couple of games. All you gotta do, click on this link. Just click on this link, go sign up. Takes you straight to the recruitment page, doesn't acknowledge the giveaway, when the prizes are awarded, like anything, doesn't acknowledge anything.
Sign up here.
It's just a sign up page for
show up at the recruiting office on Saturday morning. Pick it up. Don't worry about it. Listen, that's your own fault. Okay? If we've learned anything today from Twitter, if you believe any link or sending money to anyone, okay, that's your own damn fault. Because like the hacks that went on today on Twitter, did you see that?
Yeah, it was crazy.
So this is another thing. Like when you have we both work full-time jobs and then you have a baby, I really don't spend a whole lot of time on social media, which is probably for the best. But man, like everyone and their mother got hacked today on Twitter and like posting like this Bitcoin and everything.
It said, so the tweet was, they hacked everybody, okay?
Everybody.
Like anybody,
I mean, just look it up.
basically everybody that was either incredibly rich or famous got hacked. And it said, whatever you pay me in Bitcoin, I will pay you back in double. Okay. Like, hey, I've decided to give back to my followers. Or
even like say, hey, just give me some of them are like, just give me $500 and I'll give you back 1,000.
Yeah. Like it was like, but it was the same concept over and over again on everybody's page. And it had a link to like, exchange your Bitcoin here type thing. Obviously it was a scam. People clicking on this link, and it didn't even really give you the option of like, how do they return the money to you? Like you're just paying this account basically. I saw it at one point, Tim. It was up to like 113,000 had been given to that account.
I am not surprised, but shocked all at the same time, because listen, we're older, so maybe we just grew up in a time where like I remember being a kid and just being drilled that everything online is a scam. Don't click on any pop-ups. Don't click on anything. Don't give your information away. Like, don't do it. I also, like, my full-time job is in fraud. So I kind of am just surrounded by being paranoid all day that something is lying to me. But I will say this, Anuj, okay? And this is a problem we did not have to deal with when we were young. And I'm going to sound like a major boomer when I say this, and I am 100% okay with this. I do not get this Cash App bullshit craze that's going around the internet now, where everyone is just saying, hey, drop your Cash App link. I'm giving away $1 million. Like, that to me screams scam.
Yeah. Should I be deleting Venmo? Is that like not popular anymore? I thought that's how like.
I mean, that's what I use.
Money.
So here's the funny thing is I've always heard that Cash App wasn't safe, but it's just they just dump so much money into marketing, and that's the funny thing is people are like, oh, funny army trying to recruit gamers. Oh, Cash App, you can send me $5. Oh, well, sure, I'll give you my information, no problem, Cash App. Like, why don't we check out where your TikTok's going first? How about that, sir?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. People are dumb. Kids are dumb. That's all I got to say. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Even on social media with the whole Cash App thing where it's like clearly just a ploy to get more followers, where they're like, follow, retweet, and like, and I'll give you $1,000. And yet there's no like proof that they ever give away the $1,000. And like, also like, I could promise
100 Thieves member won it.
Yeah, like I could promise you Tfue or whoever does this isn't giving you $1,000. Cash App gave him $1,000 to give away. That's how that works.
Yeah.
But I digress. The last thing here for Winds of Change for me, and this actually reared up probably like a week or so ago, maybe when we took the Wednesday off, so which is why we didn't talk about it, because I feel like this is something that would have showed up in Yikes of the Week. Maybe it was during all those sexual assaults. I don't know. But Getty Images, which you might not know who they are, but you definitely have seen their work. They watermark everything. You can go to their site and pay a certain fee, and then you can get access to their photos and things like that. But they're a picture company. They take a ton of pictures in sports and everything.
They're huge.
You have seen their work. Trust me. Well, about 2 weeks ago, maybe now, they posted a video introducing esports photography, which got some backlash, as it always does with an outsider comes into esports and tries to act like they know what they're talking about. And you know what? Deservingly so. But they also know that as big as esports is, I think the voices behind it are much smaller compared to the people who don't know what it is, right? So if you're Getty Images and you're outside of esports trying to make it look like you know what you're doing, you are going to reach a much larger audience that also doesn't know what esports is, who then will believe you are the creator of esports photography and you wrote the book on it. Whether it's fair or not, that's just how that works in life.
I mean, they're probably pretty good photographers, so they're... What's the difference between shooting esports and traditional sports, Tim?
Oh, Anuj, you don't even know. You don't know the techniques. You don't know the angles to take of people sitting in chairs. Much different. I mean, so you can take pictures of people playing football and hockey, but have you ever taken a picture of someone sitting in a chair playing Counter-Strike? It's completely different.
Like, these guys are taking pictures of somebody catching a Hail Mary at the goal line to win a game, diving with 3 defenders around them. Probably not going to be that hard. I'm sure, I'm just saying, they're probably good photographers. So when they're talking about it, it's probably not wrong, I would say.
They have normal knowledge of photography.
Yeah,
so this came up again recently, just the other day, because everyone saw this video, laughed at it, said, "Okay, Getty Images, you go do your thing, but no one's going to respect you in this industry." Well, then Riot was like, "Hey, we really liked your video. Let's partner up." So League of Legends is now teaming up again with Getty Images as official partners through 2024. So for the next 4 years, give or take, they are going to be providing your official League of Legends photography. So now
they lose a year in the contract because 2020 there won't be any images to
2021 is going to be a little rough. Now I don't know if this also includes in-game photography, because that's kind of the next that's been like a new craze that I wasn't necessarily as aware that it took as much.
Like a screenshot?
Yeah, like if you go to, they make Rob, which is he's the esports photographer, as I like to call him. He's been a freelance work for everything. He's worked in Overwatch League. The guy just does esports. But he now does, if you go to the Overwatch League Twitter account, they'll do in-game photography. So he'll go back in after a match and go through the photo mode, right? And take in-game screenshots of the action. It is badass. He actually makes Overwatch look fun again. It is awesome. But it's
it's not in the same, it's not in a first person mode.
No.
It's in a...
Yeah. It's like an action shot of what's happening outside of the fight.
I got you.
It's just, again, if me and you did it, it would look like ass. But if you have that eye, right? If you have that vision for photography, you can, it's badass looking. My point in all this, though, I understand that there are people, Anuj, who have dedicated their lives wanting to be an esports photographer and learning the scene and earning their way up. Look at what we do, right? We're just 2 dudes who are grinding our asses off to do this show for everyone, and bring the best esports podcast out there that we can. Do you know how many people, bigger people like Getty Images, have came and started up podcasts and content shows ahead?
It's
like,
every week.
it happens all the time, and we see them. And privately, me and you will be like, "Here's another one, right? Here, is this going to be, competition for us?" Normally, it never is. Come on. You can't compete with the best, but it happens, right? We see all these other brands who start up their own shows with people we've never heard of, and it's like, what about us, right? No one ever contacts us to do a show for them, even though we have the platform, we have the experience. My point is it's always going to happen. You're always going to get people from the outside wanting to move on in. It's just
They follow the
how
money.
it works.
Right? Like it makes sense for Getty Images. I think it's a cool partnership in that sense because like for Getty Images, they're expanding their portfolio into esports. For League of Legends, it's a trustworthy company, which let's be real, there's a lot of shady people still within esports, right? It's hard to trust people in our industry. Like it really is. Like there's so many people out there that don't have like either the right motives or it's
Well,
it's just like
ask the Smash scene.
but like it is. It's really hard to trust people in our scene, and our scene is because it's relatively young, and we don't have established companies like a Getty's Images. Like there's few organizations that you can throw into that category, but for the most part, like esports is young, so I don't see anything wrong with it other than the fact, I hope I can manage to find a way to use images, you know, for League of Legends
Right.
without having to pay Getty Images. And we'll see how that kind of works. But there's enough freelance photographers out there to where we're going to get the shots that you want as a fan, probably. And for them, look, it's a good partner
like
on
I
both
said,
sides.
I get it. I get why if you're a freelance photographer, you're pissed. We see it all the time on the content side of it, right? Anuj and I have talked to countless of groups and people about doing shows with them. They say that sounds like a great idea. And in 2 months later, we see the same group of people start a show with our ideas. Like we've seen it happen. So I understand what it feels like to get passed up and kind of jerked around in that sense. It's just, it is what it is. I'm sure Getty Images are going to do a fine job. And, hey, keep on trucking, freelancers. That's it.
There's going to be a million other big name companies joining esports. So
Yeah.
don't get too worried about Getty Images. There'll be 100 more.
Yep. That's how she goes. So there it is. There are some winds of changes coming for you, coming up in esports here. One thing here, let's talk about some CDL, and then we could talk some international real quick to end the show, because we do have CDL London coming up this week. It is the rare back-to-back weekends for the CDL because, of course, they had to take off 1 week of Minnesota. They delayed it, so now everything's kind of out of whack, which is fine. I don't mind it, especially leading up to champs. Fire them off, right? Let's get this going here. I'm ready. I'm getting excited. I want to see how these teams finish up the year because we are coming down to crunch time. We only have 2 more events. We have London this weekend and Toronto, I believe, in 2 weeks still. I don't think that's been screwed up. The 24th. No, so that's next week. Okay, perfect. And then champs is going to be in like a month or something like that. The dates were reportedly leaked. I don't have them in front of me. Either way, we are in it. We are in the final stretch of the season. We have in the top 4 teams are separated by just 60 points. Now, winning gives you 50. Some of these guys, though, only have one more event, like FaZe and Huntsman. So, like, their backs are against the wall next week. Next week, the
top 4 are locked in, which is nice.
Yes,
so, like,
the top
those
4
4
aren't
teams,
changing. It's just what
not
order
in the
they're going
order,
to be in.
but yeah, the top 4 are locked in.
Right. And then the pretty much bottom part of the league, the bottom 7, are all over the place, and it could go any way. So these next 2 weeks, like I'm not kidding, I cannot stress it out enough, are huge weeks for the CDL. This weekend, though, it is London. You have Dallas, Florida, London, of course, LA Gorillas, the Surge, Legion, Optic, and New York. So with all that hype that I just set up for these last 2 weeks, this weekend's kind of a lackluster. I mean, it really should be easy for either, I would assume, Empire or Florida to take this. I don't know if I'm showing disrespect to New York, but
I think so a little bit, right? Like, so what we've seen so far is the home team generally plays well. So I think this week London becomes a team to beat also, regardless of their performance throughout the year. We've seen it over and over again. And London's not played terrible, right? They're sitting there at 100 points. Like, they've done okay. Their win-loss is roughly 50%. So they have the ability to win games. They're not like a trash tier team. And then on top of that, you hype it up for their hometown weekend. We've seen a bunch of hometown teams like, really step up. Seattle is one of those teams on the other end where I don't think we're going to get much out of them. So yeah, you can kind of put them into that. What are we going to get? If it's a great performance, good. It'll be surprising. Another team to potentially at least start to do something.
The only reason this is as important for Seattle is because of that bottom, we'll say, in the yellow, right? So of the bottom 4 teams, Seattle is the only team that have 2 weeks left. Everyone else is only playing one more weekend. Seattle is playing in London, and what is actually next weekend? Toronto. So they're playing in London and Toronto. Other than that, Optic is the only other team in that bottom half that's doing that. So that's why I think it's so important for Seattle and Optic, where it's like, look, you want to get at least the middle of the road seeding for champs. This is your last chance to do so.
Yeah. They all have something to play for. Like, everybody needs to be building momentum going into champs because everyone's competing in champs, right? So everyone has something to play for in that sense. You don't want to go into champs on a 3-event, no win streak, have no momentum built up.
But what I'm saying, like, for LA Gorillas, this is it. This is your one weekend. They could win this weekend and still be in like 8th place, which still helps for your seeding. But the chances are other teams would also get points and you'd still end up in the bottom. So if you were going to try something new, you could experiment this weekend if you were the LA Gorillas and really have no consequence in the end. Like, your seed is what it is.
What's interesting for me for this week is going to be watching a team like Florida come back in to the mix, right? They were out last week. Dallas also being out last week. For Florida, they're still that surprise team I think for me and for a lot of people, right? They've managed to win now 3 events. Skies coming onto this roster has been like made a night and day difference for them, and it's impressive to see what they've been able to do after what they suffered through. And we're going to continue to use that storyline because Pristini leaving, I think everybody just put that team out to the side and was like, nope, well, let's see what we can get from the rest of the group. But I think you're doing a little disservice to say that it's kind of lackluster in the sense New York just is coming off of a win, right? And they're that team that I feel like even we've been hyping up, waiting to see for them to like explode, finally come onto the scene. Well, here they are. So now that gives us 3 good teams in the fray. The best team in the league right now, Florida, I would think, is played the best over the past like 6 tournament stretch. So we have a lot going on this weekend that a lot on the line, but B, the storyline for me is like, can Florida, Dallas, New York easily make it into that semifinal spot and we get a matchup that we're looking to see? I think the rest are just fighting for points, ultimately, but I would like to see those 3 guys competing at the very end.
Yeah, I think that's, I guess never say never. We've seen crazy things happen so far this year in the CDL, but yeah.
Every tournament, it feels like one of them,
there's always been
not one of them,
somewhere,
but like one of the top 2 or 3 teams loses early. Like, I never feel like, that phase Chicago matchup. We finally got that this week, but every other time they've been in brackets where it they could have played each other. Somebody slips up and gets eliminated early. So I just want to see events where like the top dogs really kind of hold their own and show their force leading into champs. And so this is gonna be a fun one. Like we got the New York Dallas same bracket, so we're bound to see that matchup. To me, that's super intriguing and a great test for New York. Florida has a little bit more of a cakewalk to like get through.
It just, like you said though, for them it just depends. So Optic, you do have some new players involved there, right? So a roster change so late in the year, I guess maybe it could light a spark under some players here getting into champs, or do they just say, guys, just use this as a learning opportunity? You have 2 more weeks. Again, they're one of the 4 teams that have 2 weeks left. Just use this as time to get used to each other, work as a team, and we'll pick it up in champs, right?
And
Maybe
they're
that's
bringing
what
in
Optic is saying.
amateurs, right? So they're bringing in amateurs that are competing on this stage for the first time.
Yeah.
They're not bringing in like top flight pros that are sitting on the bench, waiting to get their spot back. Like they're bringing in people that are competing at the highest level for the first time. And we saw how that worked out for Dallas early on, with Shotzi and Illy really struggling, at the start of the season. Now they've come into their own, and we've found they found their groove, and Shotzi is considered one of the best in the league. These guys don't have that time. Like on Optic, you really gotta walk in and hit the ground running like from day one, because there's not a lot of time to play catch up. You have to get the meta quick, or understand the pro meta quickly. The politics involved in it, like there's a lot that's gonna hit them in a short amount of time. And so for Optic, I would be a little worried. Not to say that these aren't good pickups, but they're really tough pickups to make this late in the year.
Yeah, and it's like you said, I mean, even with 2 weeks left for Optic, right now they're at 70, and above them is London. So assuming London, this is the only week that they have to get points, you could theoretically see Optic leapfrog London next week, depending on what happens this week. So it could be huge for them, find that kind of sneaking in. Again, with a new roster, though, I don't know what your expectations are there. A little update with the New York subliners. That happy honeymoon phase story for Sensor was short-lived.
Very. That was surprising. It's kind of like
It's kind of
a jacked up situation. He played terrible. Okay,
yeah.
so we can
I
put that
never
out
want
there.
to tell a team how to run their roster. Kind of a dick move by Triumph.
Yeah, well, yeah, like dude's been itching to compete all year. He hops into a team last minute, plays poorly in one event,
They got
and
fourth.
then you make the switch.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean the team did not play bad as a whole, but he did not play. I mean, there was a time where it was really rough at one point for him. Still, I think that was
that? Do you think that was always the plan? Is hey, this is just going to be a one and done, and we'll see you later?
Look, were they always the affiliate team for New York, or did they get the affiliate status because they took Censor on the team?
There's literally
That
no way
I
we
don't
know.
know. Like, I feel like if some affiliation was created because of the transfer, then yeah, it looks like a bad move to like all of a sudden let him go. But I think there would be some sort of clause for New York if that were the case. I don't know. To me, it just feels like it's an unfortunate situation for Censor, because it's embarrassing more than anything,
Yeah,
right? Like
well,
it's got to be an embarrassing
I read
thing.
an article about the move. We're saying like now he's going back to New York, and so now he's riding the bench on a team that literally just won. So there's no way they're going to make a roster move. And so his option is either he sits on the bench, which he's already expressed he doesn't like. He wants to at least be playing in challengers, if anything. Or he just leaves the team. Well, it's a pretty bad business move. And now, just from a marketing standpoint, he could sign with the team. But from a performance standpoint, you just had one of the worst events you've ever had. You're at the tail end of this game's lifespan. What a shitty time to decide to leave a team if you were going to leave.
You're not going to leave before champs. The prize pool is too big. The prize pool is massive.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Like,
he has to now swallow his pride and sit on the bench for the next month or two.
Yeah, I mean, or hopefully find a way to get loaned out again, but I don't see that happening either, right? It for him it just sucks because you leave on a sour note. You go out, you have one bad performance, and you never get the chance for redemption. Like I think he should have been kept on for one more challengers week to see how you would do, but that's not the case. So unfortunate for him. Good thing he's got a very massive following and is gonna be fine financially, but yeah, definitely a blow to the ego here.
I just thought of a show bet payoff.
What do you got?
Maybe we can do a CDL bet payoff where a loser has to wear a censor style tank top.
And get his haircut.
Just for like maybe like a couple shows, you just have to look. I don't think you can wear his tank tops on Twitch. I think you'd get reported. There's quite revealing. Anyways,
well, speaking of reported, Tim,
yeah.
did you see that Benson, like CDL caster, dude, was another caster for CDL has been relieved of his casting duties for it's misconduct allegations, but that's because of a Reddit post that was out there by Momo's accuser. So Momo's accuser, Amelia, sorry, I don't remember her last name, Amelia Rose. That was Momo's accuser. She came out and confirmed what Slasher had said, that somebody else was going to be leaving and it was going to be due to misconduct allegations. And so she came out and wrote a post about it because she didn't want people thinking that it was Rich, because Rich's contract just ended.
Oh, yeah, that's awkward
with
timing.
CDL.
Yeah.
And so the timing was really unfortunate because then the rumor started swirling that it was, him when it was actually Benson. Now, we don't know. We don't even know what the allegations are. His lawyers have advised him not to speak, so that also like
good.
Never helps in my mind.
Good.
But I get it from a legal standpoint, but it's just not a great look. But for CDL, you've lost Rich Campbell, you've lost Momo, and you've lost Benson in a span of like just a few weeks here.
The winds of change, Anuj. The winds of change.
Very like Overwatch-esque, except in the sense those were contracts that were cut. These guys were like doing inappropriate messaging and
Rich
stuff like that.
Rich was just an awkward timed contract. But contract.
Yeah, like it's just Rich was an awkward time contract, but it's unusual. It's unprecedented what they're dealing with already with COVID. It's unprecedented to lose two casters and a host like right before the biggest tournament you've ever hosted. So I wonder how they're going to fill in. Like, look, I can't listen to like, who is it? Drawing a blank on his name. Huh?
Maven?
Yeah, like if it's Maven and Merc the whole time, like that would be really hard. Like A, hard for them to cast every match, but B, like I like the change of pace that other people bring. So I'm kind of curious how they handle this. If they bring, if they're bringing people in, like it's just weird that you lose 3 talent members simultaneously this close to the end of your year, but 2 of them self-inflicted wounds. So
yeah, we could just have Maven every single match as he just talks with his loose jaw all the time, and then he'll even go like this a little bit, but then he goes really loud all the time, and then he'll just all love. I swear, it's out of love.
He's great at what he does. He is like very good at what he does. It's just it's very animated. It's very like Courage-esque.
See, that's why you're on the show. Because if I said something, it would have came off of me being an ass, and people would have been like, why are you being a big jerk? You're right. He is animated.
He's like Courage in that sense, right?
Listen, I actually I think I either tweeted or we talked about it on Discord. I could be in a coma and still tell you who's a Call of Duty caster by the way they act. Like the way they cast and talk. Call of Duty, I guess they all cut from the same cloth, because you're absolutely right. They're all, I don't even know how to do it. It's like, well, I mean, so the New York subliners are going to have a crazy time today, and, well, they're going into the fast. Oh, they're on B! They're on B! It's like, oh my God.
It's kind of the way the game is played, though. You've heard comms. They turn comms on in that game.
I know. It's like they
and
just
it's
take
all
a shot
million
of
miles an hour. everybody with an adrenaline shot and 4 lines of Adderall. Like it's like 100. I'm not saying they don't do Adderall, but it's like crazy, right? That's just the personalities that are playing. It almost requires that type of enthusiasm. It
It's like
feels
they all take a shot of adrenaline right before they cast, or
right
something.
before they cast
It's
and before
just-
they play.
Yeah, it's
It's crazy.
it's just cod casting for you. So, anyways, yeah, we do have London this week. Like Anuj was saying, it's going to be a good top 3 is still up for grabs as far as how those top 4 shuffle. And the New York, they're on the outside looking in, even if they win. So that's, yeah, like you said, the top 4 is figured out, because even if New York wins this weekend,
It doesn't matter.
they're in the same spot.
They're just fighting to like hold the top seed in the middle ranks that will be playing.
Like,
so
the only way New York could screw this up is if like Optic all of a sudden win off these last 2 events. So I don't see that happening. So
like Optic would have to win out basically both
yeah,
events.
they would have
so,
to win, and New York would also have to then lose in return. So it's very unlikely. So I mean, standings are pretty much figured out, but we'll
bottom
talk.
5 is what's fighting. It's that
Yeah.
last 4 seeds you're trying to stay out of. Like I feel like even London, I feel like they're in a relatively safe spot. Like I don't see Paris, Toronto, Seattle, or LA winning 3 to 5 matches in order to catch London in the 7th seed. So it is, 8 through 12, avoiding the last 4. That's where that competition lies. And then I think for the top 4 seeds, again, everybody wants to be number 1 at the end of the year. Like that means something, right? It's a season. It means something. You have some bragging rights, momentum going in. So even top 4 are all up for grabs right now, along with the bottom 4.
Yep. So there's that. We also have the challengers. There's some drama on the challenger side. I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's like the bottom 8 teams are getting some of the prize money, and a lot of people are upset about that. I don't know.
I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you.
I mean, that's what it is. That's the story. And people are upset because they're like, oh, why does last place get money? I don't know, guys. You're in the challengers. Like,
It doesn't in
chill
in
out. Chill out.
COD in like the CDL. I think last place doesn't get anything.
No, they don't. 11th through 12th doesn't get anything in champs, but they're also pro players.
Yeah,
Like,
they're making a salary.
I don't understand is, so what? You want semi-pros who aren't really making probably top dollar? Like, you're a semi-pro. You're in the challenge.
You get it on both ends, right? Like semi-pro players are not making barely anything, so the people that win want the most money so they can live off of something, where the bottom players the same thing. They're like, well, we're semi-pro, we're not making a salary, we need a little bit of money in order to keep doing this. So I get it from both sides.
Yeah.
But I
Whatever.
would give last place a little bit of money if they were in our semi-pro league.
Yeah. Spread the wealth a little bit around to the semi, support your farm system. That's how you do it. You could be like the contenders in Overwatch, where they get nothing unless you win the whole thing. So pick your poison, right? Like, either everyone can get some or whatever, but either way.
I like how they're doing it in both. I like how they're doing it in CDL, and I like how they're doing it in Challengers. Like, I think it works for both of those leagues individually.
Yep. All right, so there's that. Looking ahead to next year, esports will be a tad different, as it has been leaked, so nothing official yet. I will say that. So I guess things can always change, as we have noticed in esports. But there has been a leaked email, Anuj, that the International 11, not this year is 10, next year is 11, has been postponed until 2022. So this is the first that I've seen where already we're seeing events being affected by COVID, even next year. I think there's a lot to take away just initially, right? Is, first off, this year, events had to go online, but we saw very few outright canceled. I mean, I really can't think of anything other than like FGC events and things like that.
But the big events are all still going on for most major esports at this point.
Yeah. And so they moved online, and that's really because their backs were up against the wall. They had no choice. Like, the wheels were in motion for the TI. You can't just cut it loose and be done with it, right? But now we're seeing it to where, okay, they can kind of clear their calendars around and say, hey, for next year, if we can't do the TI in person the way the international should be played, we're just not going to do it at all. We're not doing it online. Now, they might do an online big tournament, but they're not going to do an international. They might do some type of thing, but not an international, which for Dota, to me, is like 99% of their esports year.
What are they doing for this year's international?
It's been postponed. I believe, though, it's online. I think they've said that it's going to be online.
And so they'll just split up money between regions.
Yeah,
I mean,
the International 10. Let me see how they're doing it. I think they're doing almost like a bubble almost, though. Let's see here.
so they're still trying to do a live event.
Yeah,
somewhere, though.
I'll have to follow up. But
So,
I
but,
don't remember the last
you
thing
know,
they announced.
it is interesting. Like, to me, I feel like it was premature for them to cancel it for next year already. God willing, there's some sort of vaccine early in the year of 2021. And then maybe you're able to host that event. But I kind of understand it also from the standpoint of you need to probably book a location early for venues that are needed for these types of events. At the end of the day, though, it didn't have to be a huge venue for them to do the event, right? Like, it could have been a smaller venue that they had to find later in the year. And hey, look, maybe there's not as many fans actually at the event, but for the viewing audience, for the players, they get to do a LAN event, and they could have contained it and made it safe. So I'm a little sad that they canceled it this early.
Like postponed, right? However you want to
Yeah,
word
but
it.
so whatever. So if they're are they going to do 2 the following year?
Well, so that's what.
So
so here's this. I found this article that Dota, the TI-10, which was going to be this year, has been delayed. No dates are officially announced. So most likely that's going to be 2021, right? So it's basically they're just pushing everything back a year, which first off sucks because it was perfect. 10 was in 20. 11 was in 21. 12 would have been in 22. It's like the numbers lined up. It was very easy to follow. That's just my pet peeve. Whatever. But
that's fair. That's funny. But
right? I think it does suck though, because you gotta think with the international and Dota, like this is like I'm not kidding. I think this is like 99% of what people look forward to when it comes to Dota. I don't know a whole lot of people who casually follow the Dota esports scene as much as they did 4 or 5 years ago.
Not like they do the league scene.
No, right.
The league scene, I feel like there's so many.
And it used to be like 1-1. Like it was just like they were both top dogs on Twitch, and they would constantly trade off top spot. And that's back when Valve had like their 3 major system that led to the international. So they had like the 3 big ass tournaments, much easier to follow. Then they switched to where it's just quantity over quality, in my opinion. And I think that has turned a lot of people off, almost like how we're seeing now, where it's just like, dude, there's just too many. There's too many tournaments. I can't keep up with it. So I think this is a big deal in the sense of you got to think this is millions of dollars not being made now for what's going to almost be, this year and then potentially win next year, right? It's been delayed. We all think it's going to happen in 2021. But we don't know. Valve hasn't said anything.
It's a bigger loss for the players than it is for Valve, though.
Well, no,
Valve will release a couple of skins.
Millions of revenue for players and teams.
Yeah, like for teams that are like running organizations where these players are, in some cases probably making very good money. That hurts, especially if you're a team that's consistently been in the top 2 or 3 all year, even if you don't win the international. And you get 2nd or 3rd place, like it's game-changing kind of money. As a fan, if they were just to postpone them back a year in succession, right? So this year's international is now next year. Well, you have to be understanding of that. Like, it's COVID, right? Like, it's affecting everybody. It's not a small group of people that this has hit. So that does not make me feel as bad. What I would feel bad about is like if we had an online event this year somehow and it ended up being split up, and then next year they don't have one until the 2022 year. That would really suck. But if we're just being delayed 1 year, I find it just too hard to complain because there's so many other things going on in the world that it's like, okay, well, yes, esports is taking
Right.
a back seat right now. Like that's life, unfortunately. But yeah, for teams and organizations, like devastating. Like it's just too much money. Like the international is only cool because of the money, right? It's a big event, but it's only cool to a non-Dota fan because of how much money
Well, it
is
makes
involved, and
news
that is
because of the
it.
money. Like it
Yeah.
makes traditional news. You'll see it on ESPN and stuff because of the money.
And every year it grows, right? Like it's like almost gonna be $40 million by the time this one probably goes. So it's absolutely insane the money that's involved, and now that's not going to be split up again for Valve. Not a big deal. Like they'll release a couple of skins, and whatever money they make off of the international, they can just double down on skins for the year and be absolutely fine, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, you have to kind of understand with what's going on. If they're announcing the pushback to 2022, then yeah, you're sediment towards, hey, it's probably going to be next year before we see one anyway, and that'll be this year's. Then it all makes sense. Like it lines up with how you think it would.
Yeah. So I just hope, maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion. I just hope the smaller teams who really relied on the international can see the other side of this, right? You just don't know. We haven't really seen esports be affected by COVID in the sense of job security, right? Or at least we haven't seen it. It might have happened to certain positions with certain orgs, but as far as just like the major side of things, I don't think we've seen as many orgs or things like that shut down. I think one, now that I bring it up, one had to shut down.
None of
org
the
was
big
it?
ones.
Yeah, no, it was already like a fringe. I think it was like a Halo org or something. Why can I not? Reciprocity? Did they have to shut down? Was that because of COVID or was that before COVID?
I don't know if it was because of COVID, but they did shut down recently.
I think it was because it was because it was right when the first round. Long story short, it was because they were about to get another seed funding. Then COVID happened, so then those funding people backed out.
Oh yeah,
and then
that's
they were
right.
like, "Well, shit, we kind of needed your money to survive." So that's what it was. So we have had victims of it. Not saying it's completely immune to it, but
it's not shutting down orgs. I'm sure it's affecting every org.
Right. But not having a TI, I could see maybe hurting some more than others. So hopefully, though, this is all just hearsay and things go okay for everyone. That's the bright side. And as a casual Dota fan, I really do love the TI. I mean, I won't lie. I don't watch Dota hardly ever, if ever, anymore. I don't like the new system. I find it difficult to watch. But the TI is a must-watch for me every year. Like
because of the money.
Well, it's just the spectacle of it. Like Valve does, it's like the Worlds in League, right?
That's true.
I don't watch League of Legends at all, but I'll watch the
show
Worlds.
that they put on is good.
Yeah.
I would be more interested in the pre-show though than I would the actual game, like the ceremonies.
I'll
and
have
things
it on.
like that.
I mean, you know what I treat them as? Almost like the World Cup, right? Or the Olympics, where it's like I might not be glued into it. I might not love everything that's going on, but I mean, it's just it
that makes sense. The spectacle is true. Like they do a great job, and it is Valve's baby. It's not Counter-Strike. So
sorry, Counter-Strike.
This is where their attention is focused.
Gaben's never been to a major, which is kind of unreal.
He didn't even know that they were going on.
I mean, kind of unreal that Gaben has never been to a Counter-Strike major. Incredible. So either way, there you have it. There's everything going on right now. Let's get in to some e-news, shall we? I still like this e-news music.
I just feel like we're going down like 3 flights of stairs right now.
Why don't you take this first one for CS?
Yeah, so popular Brazilian streamer Gauls recently apologized for his actions, which, if you don't know what he did, he made a big spectacle out of a player on Chaos. I'm not even going to say his name because this guy's already got enough harassment. So if you're listening and want to harass him, you won't get that opportunity unless you look it up. He apologized, though. He called him out, called him for being, called him for cheating, sucked the life out of this kid with all the Brazilian hate that came his way. Gauls apologized because there was a lot of pressure on him to apologize. There was articles being written. Richard Lewis published a big article on it, but it was kind of everywhere. So I don't think the apology was real. I think he fought it
No.
so much when people called him out that
You
it
don't
seems
instantly-
fake now to go back and apologize. Just
Yeah.
whatever. It's fine. I'm glad he did it, but it seems fake to me.
Yeah, you don't instantly try to turn it around like that. Look, we've talked about it. Brazilian fans are passionate to their own fault. I think that there's a clear line where it's like, and people say this too, like they bash Richard Lewis on this one, where it's like, oh, well, it's just the culture. You don't understand. We're not saying that you should die. We're just saying you should die, but it's a cultural thing. I don't buy that. Like, I understand different cultures are different in different ways, but as humans, I think we all kind of know wishing death and spitting on people is not good.
KNG didn't help the fan base.
No. And that's the other, I mean, that's part of the issue, right? We have seen that on the outside. This isn't the only example of the Brazilian side just kind of taking things a tad too far. So it's,
Yeah.
And he's kind of the ringleader in that sense. So hopefully, whether it's a fake apology, I guess I don't give a shit if it's fake, as long as he continues to fake it.
As long as he calls the dogs off, right? Like, you don't want, like, every fan base has shitty fans.
Of course.
Right? Like, you see NA, if somebody loses a bet, look at
God.
the DMs that
Yeah.
person gets because he didn't perform well in a game. Like, it's any fan base. And so you just don't need the big names promoting that kind of hatred.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and
again,
that's the difference, right? Is
yeah.
some people are fans and some people are figureheads. The figureheads should not be the ringleaders in it.
No.
Let the
no.
fans be fans. I get it if fans are being assholes. That's just people. But yeah, so hopefully we can all get along here soon for Counter-Strike. In Overwatch, we have actually had some pretty good development on the playoff side of things. The league has announced that playoffs will officially start September 3rd. The way this is going, and I'll just highlight a few things from it, is there will be 2 weeks of online matches that are split into 2 regional brackets. So, of course, you have pretty much what they are now, the NA, EU, and then the Asian side. Playoffs will open with single elimination play in matches amongst the lower seeded teams and earn their spot in a double elimination playoff bracket. The final 4 teams will then compete in a double elimination bracket with 2 teams advancing to the grand finals. And these teams will be in Asia. So an undisclosed location in Asia for the championships. They want them, the reason this is they're not going to be in a stadium. There won't be any fans. They want all the teams being on the same servers for the championship. So that way,
the championship will be on LAN.
No. They will be on
No.
the same servers. It will be online, but the same server.
So are we going to have cross-region play? Like NA and EU teams play each other?
Well, like NA and Asia, you mean? Because that's
Yeah.
kind of how the brackets are, right? NA, EU is together, and then Asia. That I don't know. Like, I mean, so what I just read off was copied and pasted from their official announcement. They don't have the brackets set up as from when I copied this. Overwatch League. Let me look real quick here. Live reporting here on the Center Ring Esports podcast presented by Alt. Go to altesports.com to check it out. They don't really say.
All right. We'll get into this as we
Yeah.
get a little closer. September 3rd is a little ways away, it
Yeah, we
feels
got
like
time.
right
We
now.
got time to
so
see the schedule.
we
Once
got a
they
little time to
release the
figure this out.
schedule, I'll be able to
Cool.
see
I'm
what-
glad they're putting something together. Like
Yeah.
Overwatch needs this more than anybody right now. So to have the best teams competing, whether that's one event or split up into 2, like it's still good for the game. So.
Yeah, from the wording, I think it's all being together with 2 teams advancing to the grand finals to compete for the league championship. So that would make me think the final 4 teams will compete in a bracket. Yeah. So it's going to be, at the end of the day, you're going to have the Asian side and the EU NA sides meet. That's how I got the wording of it.
Curious to see how good these servers are, and why are we not using them for everybody?
Well, I guess it's just in Asia. I don't know why it's in Asia. That's what I don't necessarily... Whatever. Who knows? Maybe that's a sign that the finals should have been in Asia this year, which is what we kind of always thought, that it would be an Asian final anyway. So we'll see. We'll see. In COD news, owners of the Toronto Ultra, well, not really necessarily COD, but in the Toronto Defiant, are reported that they are looking to open up their own arena that will seat around 7,000 to 10,000 in Toronto.
Very cool.
Very cool indeed.
Yeah.
Especially just with all the COVID stuff happening. I was kind of shocked to see that teams are still feeling as comfortable to open up, arenas and things like that. So that's good. Good to see that faith hasn't been lost. Valorant news, we have some signings here. Scream was set to sign with Team Liquid. As far as I know, that's official. It just hasn't been announced.
I believe they have like their whole roster.
Yeah, because it's what,
mistaken,
Fish 123, which is like a UK team, believe it or not, and then Scream will be a part of that as well. Wild roster, like
Fish 123 was winning all the online events early on, so
were they? Okay,
yeah, they were winning all
So
the
there you
Nerd
go.
Street
So
events.
Team
and all
Liquid,
that, so.
EU team, that is weird. That's
Yeah,
gonna
that feels
take some
weird.
time to adjust, but we'll get there. We'll get there. And then Envy, I guess, of course, we talked about them earlier, signing FNS and some other names there.
Calypso and all those guys. Yeah.
In other news, we have former Method EU team. Of course, Method being the org that recently, still an org, right? But did everyone leave pretty much?
I mean, anybody of importance, yeah.
Ended up leaving for their WoW side, but they ended up winning the Wunderbar, or I guess that's their team name, right? Wunderbar is their temporary name, wins the MDI 2020 finals.
Yeah, those are, I enjoyed watching those because I've been playing a lot of WoW, so I did tune in. It's just, it's just crazy how good these guys are. Like how coordinated and how much they have to memorize for each dungeon and what they do. So, congrats to them though. I mean, cool. Like they were able to do it without being under Method's banner. Hopefully, they get picked up by another team. Look, if you're an org out there, there is a ton of WoW talent available at discounted rates right now. Like if you're looking to pick up another team, I would be picking up like a WoW MDI team, like Red Bull's involved and all that already. Like WoW is not going anywhere. If that's one thing that they've shown you, they're not going anywhere. No. And now the best players in the world are available, and you probably get them at a discounted rate.
So Mike, the OG, what's it? CGO, the CGO of Envy, if you're listening, here's your chance. Why don't you flex those CGO muscles and pick up a WoW roster? I think I also saw G2 kind of tease that they were thinking about entering in the WoW world. So
yeah,
which will also kind of be cool.
Team, so.
Yeah, because we don't necessarily see like big traditional esports in the WoW side. Sometimes you get like those offbeat, like Method, right? Method was a WoW org. So we'll be cool to see. So here's the chance. But that will have to wait. They'll have to wait till next episode of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast, because episode 254, it's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much to Alt for presenting it. We will be back Sunday night for Monday's show. So if you'd love to tune in live, we do so on Twitch. Follow us on Twitter to know when we go live at the Center Ring. We will have plenty of talk. We'll have CDL. We'll recap CDL London, get a better picture on what champs might look like heading into Toronto. I'm sure there will be some Valorant tournament we might be able to watch some, or anything else that happens. The Counter-Strike players break is approaching an end, so we will get some Counter-Strike back here shortly. But until then, hit us up in Discord if you'd like to play anything. We are planning a community night sometime in the month of July, so just keep an eye out for that. leaning towards Counter-Strike. Not completely sold. You can convince us otherwise, but we're leaning towards Counter-Strike. Time to give the
Kind of got a Valorant bug again, Tim, a little bit.
Okay.
Not gonna
Okay.
not gonna lie.
Okay.
Kind of got a little bit of an itch to play.
Free
so
to play. Not bad. Not bad. We might do Valorant. Well, for a
Community
nooch,
nights were pretty successful under Valorant too.
yeah, that's true. Our official team's 1-0. For our nooch, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.